beautiful white heron out there on my pond.
Hey guys, I'm going to show you some pictures on the moon here. We found a city on the moon, but look at this first.
Wagging his tail. Fishing.
Well, hello friends, David Vos here. Well, I hope you're having a great day. Oh buddy, is it beautiful here in Oklahoma today. Well friends, I was just looking around on the internet and I found something. I gotta show you this. Look. I ain't no important scientist, and you know, I ain't got no PhD. So take all this with a grain of salt. But just between you and I, as far as I can tell, you tell me what you're seeing here. Am I crazy? Maybe. I don't think that applies here. I'm just looking at a picture that NASA puts out. It's supposed to be the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter or whatever it's been filming up there on the moon, supposedly. Supposedly, guys. Nobody knows nothing. Okay, I'm just looking at some pictures that they have provided. You can go on the internet and find this stuff, and they've been doing this since 2009. Now take a look at that picture. That's what they show you. And they just briefly pass by this area. And it's all in black and white. And I was informed that they always take pictures in just black and white. Now they say it's because it's, I don't know, easier to get more pictures because it doesn't require as much data space or whatever. I don't know. But let me show you what this actual picture might look like with color. They do once in a while show you a picture in color. And there is green and blotches of other colors, a lot of green and white, as though there's snow on the ground, as though there's grass and trees. But they don't rarely ever do that. And I guess probably the only time they would do that is when there's nothing to be seen. Nothing to see here, guys. Move on. Move on. So here's a little more color in that picture. Now, I'm not saying that's the appropriate color, but when you fiddle with this a little bit and sharpen the image and start to add the color back into it, I mean, the shapes and everything, it's all there. I mean, I didn't alter anything on this picture. If you look down now, I'm not going to blow it up and because it's perfectly clear. You can see it at this angle. You don't need to blow it up. And now, if somebody's got a better thingy-me-joggy, an app on your computer or something, you can play with this and maybe get these pictures more defined and focused and up close, then have at it. But just looking at the picture just the way it is, adding a little bit of the color, I believe that these pictures here actually do have a little color in them. But remember, every one of their pictures are going to be altered because they never give you true living color. I mean, you don't have a camera that can do that. Modern cameras today on your phone get pretty darn close. But they don't use that. They use some other kind of camera. But looking at it just with this good of a picture, and then kind of going in a little bit more up close, what do you see there? Well, what I see is a huge building right there in the top, slightly left and slightly top of the picture. Not in the middle, but slightly left and slightly above the middle. I see a huge building. I see other big warehouse buildings and so forth. I see roads. I see fields. I definitely see houses. Maybe even some cars. I definitely see shapes that are not natural. They're not rocks. We're not altering it. We're not changing this picture at all. There is a literal, I wouldn't call that a city. I would call that a village or a town. A nice little town. I even see down somewhere around the middle and to the right, I see what looks like maybe a baseball stadium and perhaps an arena below it. I don't know if that's a mosque or a baseball field or an auditorium, but it does look like some kind of something like that. Now, just above, going from the left bottom corner, all the way up to the right top corner, to me that looks like that's probably a river. So that big baseball field that's just right at the center of the screen is probably so green like that. It's right on the river, and that entire area looks like it's green, and perhaps people live there and they mow their grass. This is something, friends. There is something there that is not rocks. Now, I've done videos before. I've done other videos where I've gotten some close-up shots of Mars, and we've seen the same thing over and over again. I really do believe there are cities and towns and villages, probably mega cities, and all of that on Mars and on the moon. The Sumerian tablets tell us that. We've heard this over and over again. I believe the elite are run by an alien force of individuals that have bases on the moon and on Mars, and they also probably have a base on Antarctica. And they're probably using bases like Area 51. That's why we're not allowed to go in there. There's a base in New Mexico. It's not Area 51. I told you about that. It's literally around two ancient spiritual Native American centers where at the bottom part, the whole thing is fenced off. I told you about it. There's signs saying you $5,000 fine, 5 years in prison if you get caught in there. I was chased down by a Black Hawk helicopter. I went in there and I took pictures and I saw what was going on. And there is Hebrew writings in there. What would they have to do with this Hebrew writings? Well, friends, I think they probably have something to do with the Native American and the ancient cultures. They don't want us to know and find out. That's why one of the reasons there was this war in Iraq. Remember, Saddam Hussein was trying to rebuild Babylon, and they're really concerned with all this new information they're digging up out of the ground, and it's coming light to mankind. If somebody gets into this place down there in New Mexico, places that I've filmed, and I've got it on video, with the 10 Commandments written in paleographic Hebrew. Somebody gets in there and verifies that this is real. People start talking about this. People start realizing that every nation on the face of the earth comes from the 12 tribes. We start interpreting these writings that are on the walls, looking at the ancient civilizations that was here in America. We find out that there are civilizations on the moon. When we find out that there are civilizations on Mars, that I believe these rendezvous or these trips or these missiles or these launches that they're doing, that are floating around out there in space right now, if they're doing it, they're doing it in supervision, under the watchful eye of these other beings. I know that there is some communication between our certain individuals in our government and these cities. And I think there are very high levels of the military that are in communication with these people. But take a look at it, friends. There it is. I mean, that is just a picture. You can literally find that picture. NASA has revealed it to the world. They showed it, but they never said anything. They just kind of passed it by in black and white. And you could see it even in black and white, but nobody said anything. And they're like, I guess it's like everything else. You know something's real or true, but you don't say anything because, the emperor has no clothes and nobody's going to say anything. Oh, look, Mommy, the emperor has no clothes. Well, that's a child. The child's capable of seeing the truth because he's not brainwashed yet. Are you like that? Because Jesus said you must become like a little child in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. You see, it's not, at first you want to think, well, surely, Dave, if this was real, they would have said something. So obviously this can't be real. This can't be a city. My eyes have to be lying. This is impossible, Dave. See, you want proof? I'm going to put the link for this in the bottom. And you can go and look at this yourself. There's different ways to look at it. I'm just going to give you this one particular link with this guy who, I don't even think it's NASA talking in the background, but he's using the film from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter film that they've taken, that NASA has taken. And you can look at this and see that it's on there, that I didn't doctor it. All I've done is giving you a little bit of a close-up shot of that one still shot. You'll find it, it's right around 210 in the clip that I'm going to send you. So now, the only thing that is arbitrary here, or that depends on what you believe, right? The facts don't lie. The picture doesn't lie. But the only thing that's up for interpretation is, what is that round spot in the middle? Just off to the right of the center of the picture. I said it's a baseball field. I didn't say it was. I'm just saying it looks like it could be. And then there's a huge auditorium-looking thing below it. So the only thing that's up for interpretation is, what do you think it is? All right. Well, that big green spot, why would it be green? I didn't really add that color in there. You change the contrast a little bit, and you allow the true color to shine through. It really, like I said, no film takes true color. But I didn't go in and paint the green in. If you look on this little clip, I don't know how many minutes the clip is. I'm going to put the link in the bottom. You'll see there are places where this green shows up. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's just the lighting or the sun glare or something. There's no sun glare. This is just a picture. Oh, it's digital pixelation. This is not digital pixelation, because the river is not a straight line. It's not digital. It is simply a river. It is literally lines and things that you would see, that you can see, that's in the picture, that's on the moon. But there happens to be a green spot there. Green, to me, is life. There's no way that could be green if it's not living, if there's not water. You'll see other places where it shows, where the guy says, and he's talking, and you're looking at this thing, and he says, oh, there's a boulder that's rolling down. It's left a trail. I don't think it's a boulder that rolled down. I think it's streaks where the water is flowing. It's rivers. I think these volcanoes these craters that they're showing you are volcanoes. Now, I've done a whole video on that. I think this is very volcanic. If you look on the Earth, you'll find areas like this, like Crater Lake. Most of the mountains, St. Helens had a crater at the top because of the explosion from the volcano. And I think that's what this is. It was very highly volcanic. Whether it's still volcanic, I don't know, and that's not the point of the video. But these craters were left by by volcanic activity, in my opinion. But again, I'm not a PhD. So, it looks to me like streets that are relatively straight, but then they go around canyons, so they're not absolutely straight, so they're not pixelation. It's following the contour of the land. That building is not just a rectangle that's below the baseball field with the circle in the middle. That's not a little crater. That looks to be like a dome or a cathedral or a place of worship. But since it's by a baseball field, unless it's a park, but if it's by a baseball field, I suspect that it's probably a base up there. And the people that live up there probably get bored, so they have a baseball field where they can go get exercise, and there's probably an auditorium where they go and listen to plays and watch movies or whatever. Maybe that's a theater. It's right there by the river. There's some green along that river. There's probably parks along there. And then up to the left of center and above center is that long warehouse-looking thing, which is probably an airplane hangar or some kind of a spaceship hangar, where they park them and work on them and so forth. There's several places like that. There's over on the right side of the 1 kilometer line, about 2/3 down, there is a L-shaped gray patch. I don't know what that is. It could be a building. But remember now, we're talking about that area then is about 1 mile by 2 miles. So that means that is, to scale, that round green spot is probably the size of a baseball field. That's about accurate. And then some of these other larger green areas are fields or perhaps agriculture where they got to grow their food. These rectangular buildings, buildings are always rectangular or square, right? And the buildings and the hangars are square and rectangular, just as they should be. We're not looking at rocks. We don't see anything out of the ordinary. It looks just like something you would see if you were looking down on the earth from a camera and looking down on the earth. It doesn't look like a big city there, but it does look like there is a base. That's what that looks like, is a military base. And why wouldn't there be a military base? Supposedly, we went to the moon in 1960 something. I don't even remember what day they said we went there. And then they say, oh, we never went back for years, and now they're going to go back or whatever. But why would you go up there and put all that money into it? Now, I know a lot of people said, oh, there was already a base there and they sent them away. That's probably true. And if you notice, this is an area where there's a lot of dark shadows. Now remember, the moon doesn't spin around, so it's not going to have night and day and night and day. So they locate these bases right in an area where it's going to get a little bit of light. So it's not going to be pitch black, but it's not going to get a lot of light because there'd be too much radiation from the sun. And so this is a perfect area, this spot on the moon, for there to be a base. So this could just simply be an American United States Air Force base or Marines or something. I don't know. Air Force or Space Force base or something. Maybe Space Force has been going on for a long time. Or maybe this is an alien base. Now that is probably, even if it is an Air Force base from the United States, or it's probably a Russian United States Confederate thing, but we're probably working in conjunction with these other beings that have been doing this for, thousands of years. They've been running our world, and they've had these bases. And they're, in the Sumerian texts, Sitchin has interpreted, and even just other books that other people have translated and so forth, we find that this story about Nibiru losing atmosphere. I always wondered about that. And I've said over and over again that the story goes that on Nibiru, this planet, home planet, they were losing their atmosphere and they had to go down to the earth and mine gold. But you know, there is a little bit of a fishiness to that story. Because, yeah, well, that could be true, but it seems like how are you going to get enough gold put up in the atmosphere? And really, is that the way you would fix the atmosphere, by throwing gold up in the air? Little gold flakes or ionic gold or whatever? No, I don't know. That doesn't really make sense. I'm beginning to think that, and we did a video the other day, Nibiru means the crossing. And I do believe that all of this has to do with the Stargate. You see this in all the movies, the modern movies. They're telling you a lot of stuff in these movies. They're giving you information. But they're always talking about the Stargate. They're always talking about, they're always talking about Stargate. And we see Orion in the sky with a key. It's called the Ankh. It looks like a key, but it's really a cross with a circle or a handle, which means a key because it gives you access from one side to the other. It's a crossing. And that's the Ankh, or An, heaven, key, earth. And so it's the Hebrew, they call it the Passover, because they passed over from darkness to light, or they passed over from Egypt to the Promised Land, or whatever, or out of Egypt. And they were redeemed. Well, all of these things are to help our ancestral memories to come back to us, to remember, and to understand who we are. One day we're going to decipher all of this information, all these hieroglyphs and petroglyphs, and religion's not going to be religion anymore. It's going to be science. It's going to be memories. It's going to be what it was designed to be. Simply memories in a computer chip, images, symbols that will one day be interpreted so that we can understand our past, and we'll find out that our past is our present. And we've been dealing with these individuals for a long, long time. They've set up all of the mass hysteria on this earth. Our government's run by them. We're just their cattle. We're just heirs that are one day going to grow up and own the whole thing. And they know it. We're the heir. And they've got to take very good care of us. They're allowed to keep us as slaves for the time being because we were too young to rule ourselves and we didn't know what to do and how to run. We didn't have access to the higher consciousness. So they kept our lower nature down with these very strict laws. Women had to be veiled and they cannot speak, and there has to be order, and the men get to go out and work in the fields and be slaves, and all of these laws, which are contrary to us, the Bible says, and they're a curse and a bondage. The good news came 2,000 years ago that we're not under these things, we're free, but very few people were willing and able to receive the love of the truth that they might be saved at that time. But I do believe beyond a doubt that the time has come now, we're at the end of the age, that many of us are going to be able to hang on and grasp this higher consciousness and move forward. And so the time has come that these ancient truths are going to be unveiled. This, my friends, is not clickbait, what I'm showing you. I'm showing you information, verifiable information. You can verify it. You can look at it for yourself. You don't need NASA to interpret it for you. They simply provided the picture. I don't know whether they accidentally let this picture go through or, they kept it in black and white so they didn't really want you to know. But at the same time, they left a few pictures in color and sort of put them in the reel, a few shots in there for somebody to notice. And if anybody wants to wake up and say, wait a minute now, what was that? Go back. Reverse that. Backwards, please. Focus in on that. Zoom in there. What's that? Oh my goodness. The emperor has no clothes. My friends, That picture, in my mind, proves that there is a base on the moon. And human beings could not have developed all of this technology in the last 60 years, since World War II. Even if you wanted to go back to World War I, but the real technology started there in Germany, and they brought it over in Project Paperclip in Russia, and we've been competing these several kingdoms. Nobody's had a nuclear war and destroyed the planet because they won't allow that. And what we're going through right now, this pandemic, it's a plan. And it's deceptive. They're not allowed to take us out. They cannot just go out and get rid of us. We have free will. So you don't have to be deceived. You don't have to look at this picture and say, nothing to see here, Dave. You don't have to stay in the dark. You don't have to keep pretending that we're the only beings in the universe. You don't have to keep pretending that this cruel deity in the Old Testament is really our Father in heaven who's loving when he's murderous and vile and a liar. It's time to wake up. And when you look at this picture, you don't have to just dismiss it and say, well, it's just some pixelation in the camera lens, or it's a glare in the, No, this is real. There's no doubt about it. There's no way to get around it. Now, like I said, I've done a couple other videos showing some of these cities, but this is by far the simplest, the easiest to understand. I'm not going to put any fancy music. I'm not going to, zoom in here excessively or change the contrast or fiddle with the color or the lighting or anything like that. All I did was crop the area of interest and put it straight in front of you so that you could see it. I didn't really zoom in at all. But we were talking about the Sumerian tablets. So the point is that we've got records from thousands of years ago about the civilization and who are they. Those records fit with our biblical scriptures, which is history. It's a record. And there's a reason for all of these monuments. That's why they call them monuments. Something is monumental. That's why we make a statue, to remember. This is our history. We told you. This is prophecy. This is what we had planned. So the plan is coming to fruition. And why then have they been having these bases, keeping us in the dark? Well, it tells you in Genesis chapter 1 and 2 and 3 that this particular God who made form on the second day, not the second creation, not the first chapter of Genesis, but he says he didn't create anything, he makes form. And he formed everything from the dust of the ground. And he cursed the ground, and he cursed the man, and he cursed the woman. And he says, I forbid you to become like God. You can become like God if you partake of knowledge, but I forbid it. Don't do it. See, they're hiding the knowledge from us. You're just a slave. So according to the Apostle Paul, the entire law was if you read it, you who want to be under law, it's only slavery. That's what it is. And it's a curse, and it condemns us. But Jesus said, my Father doesn't condemn you, and he's coming, and I'm going to give you the good news. He loves you. You don't have to pray, and I'll ask him for you. You can pray to him. He loves you also. And anything you ask, he shall do because he loves you. Receive his love. I'm coming again. I will destroy. I saw Satan fall like lightning. These people that have got you in bondage, they're accusing you day and night before my Father's throne. See, the reason why they're building this technology in the last 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years, and they started way back when, building up slowly and slowly, getting factories and sucking the oil out and putting electric lines up. And now we've got this digital phone system, and 5G's going up right now, and they're going fast because they're trying to build a very high technological advanced system to defeat God when he returns, because Christ is coming back, and there's going to be a war in heaven. And we know who's going to be the winner. See, they know that it's going to be very difficult for them they're like, Captain Kirk that got thrown down on this weird planet with this pterodactyl, and he had to, with his brain, defeat this brute strength. So he went around looking, and he found enough stuff to put together a rudimentary missile and kill this sort of a dinosaur creature that was somewhat intelligent. This brute beast. He had to kill the beast with his intelligence, with the word of his witnessing, with his testimony, and with his love, with science. So it's kind of opposite here, because these individuals that are here, they know that Christ is coming back. Remember when Jesus told them to get out of that guy? There was a legion of these demons in there. They said, have you come to torture us, torment us before our time? Are you here to do your job? You're getting rid of us now? And he did a little miniature of what he's going to do then. He sent them into the swine, the lower. These creatures, they don't deserve the higher advanced knowledge, which is love. This is a lower thing, this advanced technology. They've got missiles and weapons and nuclear and all this stuff. Our Father doesn't work with missiles like that. His ship is glorious. When he returns from the clouds of heaven, the same way he left the earth, he shall return. And every eye will see him. There will be a war in heaven. Michael and his angels will battle with the dragon and his angels. And a great mountain like edifice ship thing is going to fall from the sky and into the waters, and it's going to turn the waters bitter. There's going to be a great time of trouble which has never been before nor ever will again. So, I guess their only hope, these beings, is to create as best they can with what knowledge they already knew, to recreate, using humans as their slaves, to recreate some sort of alien technological advanced weapon to fight God. Because it says this guy is going to declare himself to be God. He wants worship. So he's going to use us as the slaves, hold us hostage like a shield. We're his shield. So he's like, God, you can't take us. We've got a shield around these people. Besides, not only that, they love us. We've given them all these pleasures and phones and all this wonderful stuff. They don't want to go to heaven. Remember when the children of Israel left Egypt, and Moses went up on Mount Horeb, the mountain of light. Later he went to Sinai, which means the moon. Shin, in the letter Shin in Hebrew, means the moon. So, but Horeb, or means light. So when he went to the mountain of light, he got the law of liberty, the law of love. But they didn't want the light, so he had to veil it. Came down and he veiled it, and he broke those commandments, and he wrote with his these tablets. He wrote with his own voice and spoke these words that were the words of Yahweh, with these carnal commandments that we're this system that we're under now, because it's what we chose. See, it's always up to us. Our Father in heaven will never allow anyone to take your will. You're a divine being, an image of God. You have a choice. Everything you do, you have a choice. You don't realize it. You say, well, I hear a lot of people are saying, oh, this isn't fair. The devil's torturing us, and there's a terrible life down here, and why would God allow this to suffer? We're suffering. Why would God allow this? Well, God would never allow it. You don't have to suffer, but you won't receive the love of the truth that you might be saved. You smoke because you like smoking. You drink liquor and get yourself drunk off your butt, and you're destroying your body, and they don't force you to take the pharmaceutical drugs. They just put a commercial on, say, hey, it's a real thing. The purple pill, you got to have it. Come on down. You're the next contestant on You're going to Die this week. And you decide, I'll take door number 3. You are making the decisions. You gave them the tax money to build NASA, and you thought, oh, yay, let's just believe whatever they say. Yeah, well, you could see all these years that they weren't fixing the roads. You know, the queen came out in her little bonnet and, you know, a little cup of tea, and you said, oh, long live the queen, long live the queen. You know, it's just, we'd curtsy and we'd bow, me lady, and oh, you know, I've got to wear a bonnet and I can't wear a dress without a corset. And we've got to wear a feather in our hat while we curtsy and watch Her Majesty come parading down the boulevard. You see, we chose to do all this, and we curtsy, and we say, Madame, and we do all of these things in your honor, and why, I believe in the law and order. And all those who don't curtsy, well, off with their head, off with their head. This is something that we were brainwashed. Yes, I know. Yeah, the emperor has no clothes. We all were brainwashed into this. But you see, all the while, we could go home. We had the power. We just had to kick our heel together 3 times. There's no place like home. There's no place like home, Dorothy. You see, we always had the power to go home, but we just have not yet chosen to go home. We enjoy our bourbon and coffee. We love going to the theater. We love betting on the horses, you know, and watching this whole thing go round and round, and going down to the arena and watch the gladiators fight to the death. Why, look at the Christians are dying and they're being eaten by the lions. This is wonderful. This is something that we enjoy. You know, it's not the first time they burned the cities down, right? It happened back in the days of Nero, and he blamed the Christians. This is what they're doing now. They're blaming the Christians. But really, this is a hoax. You see, they've got to deceive you. That's the only way, is to deceive you, because he's a slanderer, he's an accuser, and a deceiver, and a liar. All we've got to do is choose to have integrity. You know, to be dignified. All we got to do is receive the love of the truth that we might be saved. That's it. And, you know, it may start by some courageous person going out in the streets and saying, the British are coming, the British are coming. And then we all run out and we be brave. And we defend our young maiden's honor. We defend ourselves. We defend our liberty. We defend our lives, and we defend the truth. We don't just buckle because, hey, well, you've got a wonderful little game on a computer that I could play with all day long in the dark. I'd rather do that. Why, they're coming to take our children. Well, that's all right. Well, I've got cakes and truffles. Well, that's more than enough to make up for our missing children. We really didn't need them now, did we? We've got so many other wonderful things to amuse ourselves with. Why, I've just barely got started on the first level of the Game of Thrones, and I rarely haven't gotten even halfway through the first season of Friends on Netflix, and I've got just so little time and so many movies to watch. Oh, would you like a biscuit with your spot of tea? Oh my goodness, friends, don't you get it? We really don't have to be like this. You see, I mean, it's like, oh, you got this big gown, and you can't get a spot or a wrinkle in your gown, and you've got silicone in your ass, and you're sitting around this luxurious home watching this 65-inch television screen hologram surround sound, and you really can't get away from, you know, ESPN, or, you know, you're glued to the television watching the news. You believe in all the hype. You believe in all the lies, the false flags. It's your choice. This isn't even the real world. The real world is out here in the trees with the animals, digging in the soil, watching the seeds grow and sprout, riding your horses, watching your children grow, and, you know, raising them with dignity and with morals and with values, climbing Mount Everest, you know, and just so you could get to the top and see the other side. That's it. We're here just to learn, to experience, to love, to feel the touch of another person, to offer them a hand, you know, to watch, just because we want to see a smile on their face. That's why we're here, to help one another. to learn how to love, to learn how to have integrity. You know, that's why there's these obstacles in the race. When you're running a race, the Apostle Paul says, not everybody wins. And there's obstacles and there's resistance. And you've got to run the race, you know, by keeping your eye on the prize. And what is the prize? See how many Twinkies you could wolf down in 5 minutes? How many hot dogs you could, you know, suck down at the ball court? No. The prize, you know, oh, I'll be in the Guinness World Records. He ate 500 hot dogs in one sitting. But that's what some people want. They spend their entire, I mean, I've seen people, these reality TV shows where these people are like, oh, I just want to see if I can become so huge, like 957 pounds has never been reached before. I want to be so big that I die. How about that? I want to be so stupid that I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I see this one person, this is the craziest thing in the whole world, but she was addicted to eating her sofa. I'm not kidding you. This was supposed to be real. But you know what I think it is? I think it's just what we were talking about the other day. It's just reality TV. They give you some bullshit, right? A lot of these people that are putting all the, you know, they're changing their body. Now they're transgender and everything. It's just a way for them. It's like a reality TV show. You can follow their life and you could be shocked by the whole thing. And like, what? Oh, this is crazy. Is this real? This one wants to be a dragon. Now he's putting horns on his head, you know, and surgically putting in horns under his skin, painting his skin green, and he thinks he's a dragon, right? This somehow is entertainment for us. And some people get off on just seeing how stupid they can be. And that's on them. And look, one day they'll wake up. They're somebody's children. Somebody loves them. I know our Father in heaven loves them. He loves us all. And he's patient with us. He doesn't desire any to perish. And he's not willing that any should perish. But you see, at some point, it's okay to say, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. That's hilarious. A friend of mine used to say, oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that is so hilarious. It is not even hilarious if you really think about it. It really is just unworthy of a mention at the end of the film, right? There doesn't even deserve credits. In the movie of life, at the end of the movie, the credits going to roll and your name's not going to be there because you screwed up, right? You thought that you'd get a honorable mention for seeing how many farts you could let loose in the space of, 30 seconds. That's not going to get you a prize. Teaching your children that everybody can just do whatever they want. Why, if my child wants to just jump off that cliff and go splat all over the ground, why, that's her decision. Why, it's a new thing. Everybody's doing it. Why, we're just, opening the window and just stepping out on the ledge and then just jumping off. Very few even survive. Why, I'm so proud of my little one because she fell 475 feet and survived. Why, she's got no more limbs and she can't walk, but I'm just so proud of her. Seriously, this is what people are doing. I mean, basically, I may be, exaggerating just a little bit, but not really. I mean, this is, like I say, is this guy eating his couch. Or somebody that, thinks, being a transgender, that's about as ridiculous. That doctors are literally calling themselves doctors and then cutting the anatomy of a person off their body. And somehow or another, our government allows this brutality. Or this whole thing that we got going now where it's like, oh, we can just, when our mother and father gets to be a little older, we'll put them in a senior home. Why, it's it's not an old folks home. Why, it's a senior home. Now, see, if we say it in Spanish, it really isn't so bad. It's not an old folks home, Dave. It's a senior's home. A retirement center. No, it is a squalor of a awful, wicked, terrible place that nobody should ever be in. Nobody. Don't put your family there. You say, well, I just don't have anywhere for them. They require so much care. Well, imagine how much care you required when you were little and you were just a baby and your mother had to change your diapers. Was that too much trouble for her? No. We realized that, I guess we had enough common sense to realize if we stopped, changing the baby's diapers and didn't feed them, that the whole civilization would die. But see, that's how stupid we are. We're at the point now where we're literally shutting down the world and quarantining all of the people who aren't sick and letting the crazy, violent protesters run around in the street and burn it down. And that's just fine. That's the logic that we're following here. And it's insane. And we don't have to do it. We can choose not to do this. I mean, how hard would it be for all of us just to get together and say no? How hard would it be? Why are we just walking in there with a face mask on because they told us to do it? Why don't we just all say no? I mean, I would love to try this again, but I know it's not going to work. I tried this, I don't know, a few weeks or so ago. I said, let's just all go down to the courthouse. I went down, and I know a few of you did, but, nobody listened. I mean, the video didn't go viral. And, of course, the only people that went down and rioted in the streets are the ones who were violent, and they started burning down the buildings. All of us peaceful people with integrity or whatever, we stayed home. Or do we have integrity? Or because we're not doing anything. I mean, at least they're doing something. I know they're getting paid for it. At least, they're destroying the country, but at least they're doing something, I guess. In a sense, I guess maybe it's even more crazy. It's even more crazy that we don't do something. That we just sit here and let this happen. That we don't even have... I know a lot of you would probably do something if somebody could organize it. And you'd be willing to go along with it if somebody else would organize it. Like if it was on television tomorrow where they said, hey, everybody's going to get in the street and we're going to give each other a hug and we're going to tell each other we love each other. And we're going to stop all the nonsense. We're not going to hurt each other. We're not going to kill each other. But you see, nobody's encouraging that because the people who are doing all the encouraging, that's not what they like. They like burning the streets down. So, you see, somebody like myself, they says, hey, why don't we do this? Or how about plan B or whatever? No, it doesn't go viral. Nobody really knows about it. But even if I could get this video out and I could tell people in a video, hey, let's go down to the Capitol building, on a certain day, a certain week. And we'll all just stand there and say, no, we've had enough. This is what we demand. I really don't know if anybody would go. And that's what's bothering me. That's what's sad. Is that to save your own life and your children's lives, many of us will not do anything. Not enough. So I think the old saying, like it says in the Bible, the dog is returned to its vomit. And it's just the nature of the dog, I guess. And the nature of many human beings at this time, they have not yet advanced. Yeah, we're going into a new age, and there's going to be a whole group of people that's ready to enter into the new age. The new age of love. They're going to be strong, valiant, loving, decent, good people. But there is going to be a lot of people that just they're not ready at this time. And I think for some of us, we've got to have to accept the fact that there are a lot of people out there. But, not our families. We need to take responsibility for our own families at least. And, we got to tell our children, listen, this is what's going on. I do this with my daughter. I tell her, no, Autumn, this is not normal. I know you're not old enough to remember when, if your grandmother saw what these people are doing today, she would not believe it. You couldn't you could no way in the world she would ever believe you if she didn't see it with her own eyes. It's just ridiculous. There's no way she would have put up with this shit. My mother wouldn't have put up with this behavior. And there's just that attitude and that godliness and that moral, those values and that is just so rare these days. People, even the supposed good ones, right? The good people. We don't have the valiant. There are no more heroes. There are no men of valor. There's no one willing to give their lives for their fellow man. I mean, there are very few. It's a lost art, love is. So if you think that somehow the world's advancing and getting better, the thing of it is that in overall, mankind has now decided that we don't believe in certain, like, equal rights, and we have all these moral things that we believe in, yet we're killing our babies. We're too stupid to see that these things don't correlate. We don't go to war, but we push a little button and exterminate entire peoples because, based on some lie that we were told that we really knew better. I have to tell you, friends, there is a little principle in the universe, and that is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now, it doesn't apply to those who passed over from death to life, those who are operating under the new covenant, those who have forgiven everyone around them and they have forgiven themselves and they love and they follow after the Holy Spirit. But in this world, this law still remains, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And in that carnal law, under this physical universe, there are consequences to your actions. And I keep hearing this in my head. I keep playing this over in my mind. 20, 30 years ago, I remember when Bush said we all got to go over to Iraq and kill them all because there's a bunch of terrorists over there. And I remember thinking at the time, well, there might be some terrorists. I didn't know if I believed that they weren't being set up. I figured that. Didn't know exactly all the things that we know now about how the CIA went in and all this stuff. But we knew they were pretty much being set up. And we also knew that it wasn't everybody over there. It was just, if it were terrorists, it was them. They were responsible. The Taliban, right? Al-Qaeda. It wasn't the average poor little peasant in the street. So the concept or the idea that we should just go over there and level a country because of their murderous emperor or their murderous dictator, just take and drop bombs all over and leave their cities in rubble. And then all this patriotic talk on television about how, oh, the heroes, the military heroes, they're so patriotic and they've died for defending this country. Well, they didn't defend this country. They weren't defending us. The people who, well, we don't even need to get into what 9/11 was or anything about that in this video. But there's a consequence. It's coming. Because of what this country did, because of the fact that you guys were so blind, and I'm talking not to the people, my subscribers and a lot of people that are awake, but I'm talking to the general populace here in the United States. You see the consequences that are about to happen. Those are the consequences. Those are the things you get when you do that. When you turn your back on an entire race of individuals over there in Iraq and let Bush and our military go over there and murder them. You join the army and say, oh, I'm making good money and I'm killing people at the same time. Oh, isn't it wonderful? I'm going to get a pension too and Medicaid. And oh, this is going to be wonderful. And I'm a hero. And that You should have known better. You see, I know you didn't know better. You chose not to know. In your heart, you knew. Your conscience bothered you a little bit, but you just said, shh, shh, be quiet, conscience. Everybody says that the king has no clothes or the emperor has no clothes, so I'm going to just believe it. I'm not going to acknowledge what my eyes can see. Everybody knew what the things we were doing is wrong. The police, all this time for the last 50 years, you've been throwing people to the ground, beating them up, hauling them off to jail. Well, that's my job. That's what I got to do. I'm just doing my job, Dave. You nurses and doctors, you're out giving these people these shots and all these pharmaceutical drugs, and you knew it wasn't doing a damn bit of good. Well, the time for consequences is about to come. For what you did, or for looking the other way, or for not, for pushing your conscience down in your chest and not listening. This is what's going to happen. Now it's our turn. You didn't choose to save one of these little ones. You didn't give them a cup of water when it was time, when you had the chance. You didn't stand up for the poor, for the downtrodden, for the weak, the homeless. You didn't speak out. You didn't say a word. You chose not to see the truth, but you reveled in darkness. Like the dog that goes back to its own vomit. It was your decision. And now you're going to pay the price. The Pied Piper's got to be paid. It doesn't mean that the Lord doesn't love you. He loves you. He's patient with you. He's not willing that any should perish. And this is why he's patient. And he waits and he waits and he sends forth the call. Come out, meet the bridegroom. Get out of her, my people, if you don't want to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues. But they didn't listen. And they wouldn't love the truth that they might be saved. So he sends the strong delusion upon them that they might get to believing the lie. And then comes the consequence for what you've done, for your actions. You don't have to, even now, friends, no matter what you've done, whatever in your life you've ever done. Maybe when Bush said, hey, let's all go over there and kill all the Iraqis, but they're all a bunch of evil people, a bunch of Muslims, filthy Muslims, let's kill them all. And you said, hey, I'm up for that. Where do I sign up? Or maybe you just didn't say anything. You went out to a social gathering and they were all saying, yeah, those darn filthy Muslims. You didn't say nothing. All right? Now it's coming here. Now we're a filthy white person. That, we don't deserve to live because, well, it's not true, right? It's a lie. They're slandering us. The things that's being done to the world and all the cruel wars and troubles and plagues and everything, it wasn't our fault. It doesn't matter. They create the illusion and everybody just falls in line. You can't blame these people for joining on to the bandwagon and joining the riots and destroying the cities because they were told why that's the new game in town and they got on board. You did it back in, with Bush and you went to war and you believed in all this crap. Oh, we're all patriots. We got to go kill all the bad guys. Right? Put them in prison. We need more prisons. Why? There's just so many terrible, filthy people on the streets doing drugs. We got to put them all in prison and take their children from them. And you just allowed it to happen. You went ahead and you every day as a nurse, you went down and did your job. And you never spoke up. And you watched Walmart start hiring people to just stand there and say, hi, have a good day. And you didn't notice something was, something strange going on. A monopoly was forming where these certain few billionaires now own everything in the world. And we didn't speak up. We didn't say anything. When they said, you got to have a permit to sell that lemon juice there, young man. You've got to have a permit to sell lemonade. And we didn't stand up. We didn't say a word. And now the Pied Pipers got to be paid. But as I said, it doesn't matter. The Apostle Paul was approving of persecuting Christians and murdering Christians. He approved of it. But when he found out that what he was doing was wrong, when he had that revelation on the road to Damascus, he repented. And he turned around. And he gave it everything he had that he might attain unto the resurrection, the awakening. And he began to go out, and he spent the rest of his life trying to help people to understand the gospel. And that's all you got to do. And I tell you now, Americans and people of the world, this is the last call. This will probably be the last time, last opportunity that you have over the next, I don't know, could be days, weeks, or months. You've got an opportunity to turn this ship around. And if not for the whole United States and the world, if we don't as a nation repent, then you need to at least just by your little lonesome, by yourself, your family, the people there among you. Get your family together and you start praying with your family. And you start saying, I'm going to start helping people. And I'm going to start loving people. And I'm going to pray, Lord God in heaven will forgive me of my sins and what I've done. Because he will. All you have to do is say, I'm sorry. And he's faithful in order to forgive you. People, I tell you now, if you do not repent, you will experience the bowls of wrath and the thunders and the falling mountains and the bitter waters and every foul and hateful, nasty judgment that will be inflicted upon this world coming upon this last generation. Repent. Repent or face the consequences. And I tell you, the consequences are severe. And you will not escape the judgment that's coming upon this world. This is David Vos. I'm going to go ahead and go. I hope you guys have a really great day. We'll see you tomorrow.